But if you are not clear, if you are not giving really good, focused direction on where you're going and why you're going there, what you end up doing is have a bunch of people who are taking action, but the action is not moving towards the goal. Welcome to this week's episode of the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. And we are back to just me for a few weeks, although I have some really great interviews coming up for you as well. This week, I want to talk about something that I talked about on the radio show, but I want to put it in a really small bite for those of you who are leading people. And remember, leadership is about behavior, not about position. And that is about writing things down and making them plain. Write it down and make it plain. Now, this was something that came to me because I was doing my morning meditation. And actually, there's a scripture that talks about write it down and make it plain. So that's in Habakkuk 2, verses 2 through 3. And as I've been working with my clients and actually going through some adjustment of my business as well, that I'll tell you guys about soon, what really came forefront for me that I've talked about a lot, but sometimes we need to see something or have something said to us before we really hear it. And that is this idea of having a really clear vision, right? Because I talk about getting aligned with who you are and where you are, being really clear on what you want, and then being able to move into empowered action. That idea of having a really clear vision is not only deep for you, so that you can write it down and make it plain. What is the goal? What are you really, really trying to do? And giving yourself the opportunity to spend time to sit with that question. What am I trying to do? Write it down and make it plain. For those of you who are leading people, what's even more important about that is there are goals and objectives for the organization for sure. And you may have goals and objectives that are yours. And theoretically, all of those roll up, right? So everybody's individual objectives and goals roll up into the overall organization's objectives and goals. But if you are not clear, if you are not giving really good, focused direction on where you're going and why you're going there, what you end up doing is have a bunch of people who are taking action, but the action is not moving towards the goal. Now, this doesn't mean that every decision is a collective decision or that you need to do everything by consensus or that you have to justify everything that you're doing and explain everything to the nth degree. That's not what that means. What making it plain means is having people be very clear on where are we going and why are we going there? And then how do the what's in it for me, how do I take the appropriate action for my job, my level, my skill set, whatever it is, to ensure that I am doing my part to get there? Because as I do my part to get there, we all win. Write it down and make it plain. Sometimes we are so focused on innovation and movement and being forward thinking and on the cutting edge or the bleeding edge or the new thing that's happening that no one knows what we're talking about, right? No one has any idea what we're saying. And the challenge for those of us who are not only kind of introverted, but are very fast thinkers, is we will be down the road across the bridge in the next county and have only had a conversation with the people in the very beginning. And they only know that we're going a few feet down the road, right? They don't know that we're heading to the next county. And so what happens if we don't write it down and make it plain, or at least make it plain, right? We have people scrambling all over the place doing really sometimes good work, busy work, detailed work that has absolutely nothing to do or no impact on the overall destination because we haven't been clear. It is important that as you decide where you're going with your business, where you're going with your career, where you're going to take your department in order to help your department achieve its goals to meet the overall goals of the organization, that everyone understands what the destination is, that it is clear, it is plain, it is simple. You know, they used to say, write everything at like a 5th or 6th grade level so people understand it. One of the things I used to hate when I was in corporate is we'd go through these elaborate strategy sessions and everybody would have 400 slides with all the bells and whistles. And this is really big at consulting firms, right? It's got to be the latest and greatest in PowerPoint, right? Or whatever your thing is that you're using to put your deck together. And there's so much time spent on it looking good and bells and whistles and the right colors and all the things that it says absolutely nothing. People leave these meetings, they spend all this time putting this deck together, and not a single piece of critical information is communicated. Not one. Not a single one. Or you get people who've gone through these 400 slides and you got so much stuff in the slides, they have no idea what you're talking about. It's not clear. One of the easiest things to do is to throw a whole bunch of spaghetti against the wall, do 400 slides, put all the bells and whistles, put absolutely everything in the deck and in the pre-read, because heaven forbid you leave something out, right? That's the easiest thing to do, is to be complicated. It is extremely difficult to be simple. So when I say write it down and make it plain and spend some time, I really mean spend some time. Do you really mean what you say you mean? Are you really trying to go where you say you're trying to go? What does that really look like? Because if the destination is clear, if the expected or intended or anticipated or desired outcomes are very clear, then the path to get there can vary, right? The how can vary because you always have your eyes on the ultimate end goal. And that gives you space to get there in a myriad of ways. But if you don't know what your ultimate destination is, you are able to get off track all the time. And you don't know if that is just a detour or a complete derailer for what you're trying to do. As someone who has now entered year 6 of business and has recognized very deeply that everything that I have done and learned and grown and experienced, not only in my 30 years of corporate, but even in this 6 years, has gotten me to where I am now. None of it has been for waste. None of it. Everything has been for the good of the impact that I am trying to make. And it has only truly been in this last year, right? The year number 5 and then heading into this year number 6, that everything got crystal on the impact that I can and do and am put here to make. Crystal on the experience that I have and how that is unique. Crystal on the bigger impact, the bigger why that I've talked to you guys about. And so I encourage you as leaders to spend the time to get really, really crystal clear. And that's going to take some solitude. That's going to take some quiet. You may want to bounce some things off people, right? Your trusted circle, your board of directors. But this is you time. This is individual leader. Spend some time in your closet. Time. Get your pen and paper out, right? I like to visualize with actually hand-mind connection. I need paper and pens in different colors and all that kind of stuff. Or now my iPad with the pencil that changes colors, right? Get the thing that gets you grounded and gets your brain and your mind open to clarity and to possibilities. Get really, really clear on that destination. Write it down and make it plain. Because in order to get where you want to get, you're going to have people who help you and support you, who guide you, right? Who lead you. But that guidance and leadership that you're seeking must be aligned with where you're trying to go, right? It's got to be so clear to you that you recognize when that person who is assisting you is really assisting you towards your goal or is taking you off track for whatever reason, maybe out of ignorance, maybe out of nefarious intent. But if you're not clear, if you haven't written it down and made it plain, really plain to you, so plain that you can say it over and over and over and over to someone else, and they get it. They get it the first time. You're using $2 words instead of $40 words, right? Whatever the thing is that you're trying to get to, have you written it down and made it plain? It is so critical as you lead yourself and as you lead others that people know where they're going. Trust is critical. And one of the ways to build trust is to be clear. And so by writing down and making plain what it is you're trying to do, you can be really clear with people. And that clarity gives you an opportunity to be consistent. No matter what goes on, you always bring people back to the goals and the outcomes that are expected and intended. No matter what happens, you always go back to home, right? As they say, go back to home, go back to center. That consistency builds trust. That trust enables people to get on board and to support you as you're moving and to be able to do their best work. That being plain and clear is deeper than just saying simple words. It is being completely, thoroughly, unequivocally aligned with who you are, where you are, what you want, and then what it's going to take to get there. Because when that vision is clear, all of those other things are moving towards that thing you're trying to get to. So for this week, as you are continuing to build your departments, right? Build your teams, finding the people around you that are going to make those goals happen, especially if you're in corporate, right? And taking over departments. As you're beginning to build that and move them to where they need to be and helping people operate at their highest and best skill. As you are taking your business into the next level and really dealing with all this economic craziness that we have going on now, give yourself some time to get really clear and make it plain. Spend the time to make it simple. Simple for you to understand and simple for you to communicate to others so they can understand. So, your homework this week, write it down and make it plain. I'm telling you, it is going to move you forward faster than you ever thought, because sometimes you got to go slow to go fast. So slow it down, write it down, make it plain, and then get ready to soar. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rutledge Perspective podcast this week. I appreciate that you guys are here, and I thank you so much for doing that every single week. And again, there's going to be some really great stuff. I'm refreshing my website, and I've got some offerings that are getting clear and set up for you guys because I'm making it clear, right, and simple. So stay tuned for those. Continue to follow me on social media. You can find me at Laurel K. Rutledge or The Rutledge Perspective on all the platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, IG. You can find me there. And I would love to hear from you. What else would you like me to talk about? What topic is really burning for you that you would like me to address in the podcast? Take care and have a fantastic week. You have been listening to the Rutledge Perspective podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and for connecting. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on my website at laurelrutledge.com/podcast. You can also find me on social media at Laurel K. Rutledge and/or The Rutledge Perspective. And I'd love your perspective on the things we talk about. And if there's a specific topic you want me to cover, just let me know. And please share this podcast with someone in your village who may need this little piece of perspective today. And if you're so inclined, I would really appreciate a 5-star rating and review on the platform of your choice. Apple Podcasts and Spotify reviews are particularly helpful. Thank you again for listening. Take care.